Well, they did it. Demis Hassabis announces that the Gemini era is here. Thrilled to launch Gemini 1.0, our most capable and general AI model. Built to be natively multimodal, it can understand many types of info. Efficient and flexible, it comes in 3 sizes, each best in class and optimized for different uses. Now, we've heard big announcements before that kind of fell flat. I think this is the real deal. The first real competitor to GPT-4. Let's dive in. So first of all, why is Gemini a big deal? We've been waiting for it for a long time. It was delayed till 2024, but then launched suddenly one morning. There are a number of reasons why it's huge. It's multimodal natively, and people are expecting it to be a foundation for software agents, planning and reasoning, kind of like Q-Star, what people were speculating Q-Star to be about. The idea that we're combining the AI from DeepMind with the advancements in large language models, which would allow them to plan, reason, self-play, learn, innovate, etc., as well as gameplay and even physical robots. The general robots that Google and DeepMind are training, we expect them to be greatly enabled with a lot of this progress. More details in this Wired article. We'll come back to it later. All right, so first of all, this is Google's blog, The Keyword, introducing Gemini. So they have an introduction from Sundar and introduction by Demis Hassabis, the CEO, co-founder of Google DeepMind. So they've posted a few video demonstrations of what Gemini can do. I will put those at the end of the video, so stick around and watch those at the end. So Gemini 1.0, this release, the first version will have 3 different sizes. Gemini Ultra, our largest and most capable model for highly complex tasks. Gemini Pro, the best model for scaling across a wide range of tasks, and Gemini Nano, our most efficient model for on-device tasks. And it sounds like Gemini Nano will be in the new Pixel phones. More on that later. Now, you might be saying, yeah, but how smart is it? Well, let's take a look. They're not pulling any punches. They're directly comparing it to GPT-4. They're putting up Gemini Ultra against GPT-4 head to head. So first of all, real fast, MMLU. So with a score of 90%, Gemini Ultra is the first model to outperform human experts on MMLU, Massive Multitask Language Understanding, which is a combination of 57 subjects such as math, physics, history, law, medicine, and ethics for testing both world knowledge and problem-solving ability. Our new benchmark approach to MMLU enables Gemini to use its reasoning capabilities to think more carefully before answering difficult questions. We've seen similar things from Microsoft with Orca 2, where they try to get these large language models to first figure out how hard they have to think about a question, allowing them to think more carefully around difficult questions, which often has better results. So first of all, so general MMLU, so Gemini Ultra, they're saying 90%, so that's the big number. CO2 chain of thought at 32, whereas GPT-4 is 86.4, which is 5-shot reported. So this is probably from GPT's 4 technical paper. So we'll dive into the technical report because sometimes there's some shenanigans with the numbers that things are not what they seem. So we're going to dive deep to see exactly what's happening. But the headline here is Gemini Ultra, their biggest model, is better than GPT-4. All right, so for reasoning, big bench hard. So multi-step reasoning, it slightly beats GPT-4 and both 3-shot, meaning 3 examples. It's given 3 examples of how to reason, then it's given a problem. So this seems like an apples to apples comparison. Drop, so reading comprehension, 82.4 versus 80.9. So it beats it out. Then we have common sense reasoning for everyday tasks from Hella Swag. And so 10-shot to 10-shot, but looks like GPT-4 wins out with 95.3%, whereas Gemini Ultra is 87.8. Math, Gemini wins by a few percentage points. On the GSM 8K, then on the math, the Gemini wins by a few percentage points. And coding, so human eval, Python code generation, it wins by quite a bit. It's at 74.4 and GPT-4 is at 67, both with 0 shots, so no examples given, which is big if true. And natural to code, Python code generation, again, it wins by a little bit on 0 shot versus GPT-4 by just 1%. If this is true, and if this is an accurate comparison, comparing, apples to apples, if we're comparing them fairly and Gemini wins on all these tasks, then we do indeed have the new king of large language models, the Gemini Ultra. Then here we have the multimodal rankings. It wins on the MMMU, ever so slightly beats on natural image understanding. OCR on natural images, it wins out. Document understanding, it wins out. Infographics, it wins out by quite a bit. Mathematical reasoning in visual context wins out by a bit. And so on a lot of these, it says pixel only. So we're going to have to see in the report what that means exactly. Perception tests, so on video question answering. So both of these are English video captioning and video question answering. It wins out by quite a bit. And what's interesting here is, as far as I can tell on video, this is the only comparison that's not OpenAI. So here we have GPT-4 with vision, whereas here we're comparing it to DeepMind Flamingo and Sevilla. which were the previous state-of-the-art models that we're comparing it to. So this was one of the things where we thought Gemini will absolutely dominate in its video understanding. Google, of course, owns YouTube, the biggest amount of video on the web, with a lot of other data that is helpful, views, comments, people hitting thumbs up, thumbs down, sharing it, etc. All that allowing the AI to better understand what the video is about. Everything's automatically captioned. That's a huge amount of data for training these multimodal AIs on video. So this will be the best video AI by far, and we're going to dive into what that means. And then audio, automatic speech translation. So it really wins out versus Whisper, OpenAI's speech-to-text model, and automatic speech recognition. Well, it seems like this is one of the few things where it falls flat versus Whisper version 3. Sorry, I misread that. No, automatic speech recognition based on word error rate. Lower is better. So I apologize. I did not read the fine print. It wins on automatic speech recognition. Lower is better. So 7.6 wins versus 17.6 on the Whisper 3. It wins by quite a bit. So it has next generation capabilities. So they're saying instead of training separate components for different modalities, like training text and training vision separately and then kind of stitching them together. And the downside to that approach is that, these models can be good at performing certain tasks, but struggle with more conceptual and complex reasoning. Here, they designed Gemini to be natively multimodal, pre-trained from the start on different modalities. Then they fine-tune it to refine its effectiveness. So, and this is DeepMind.Google, so this is kind of their visual representation of what this is going to do. So we have the first version of Gemini. It shows that it's much better on the MMLU. They're going over the 3 different sizes, Ultra, Pro, and Nano, and anything to anything, right? So instead of text to video or video to code or whatever, just anything to anything. And it's giving you examples of video to code, it seems like, image to text, music notes to explained as text, etc. And these are highlights of Gemini's multimodal reasoning capabilities. We'll put a lot of this towards the end, so stick around. The potential of Gemini, competitive programming, and some people are going nuts over it. It's explaining reasoning in math and physics, so we'll take a look at that. And building and deploying Gemini responsibly, which is good to see. And so what they're saying is that Gemini Pro is in Bard. So it's that middle-sized model. So it's not Gemini Ultra, not the top model. So this is the Gemini Pro. That's the one that's going to be in Google Bard. The Ultra is, we don't have access to yet as far as I can tell. And this is exciting, build with Gemini. So we can start integrating Gemini models into your applications with Google AI Studio and Google Cloud Vertex AI starting December 13th. So just less than a week from now. One thing that's interesting is, so this is December 5th. So this is actually more than 24 hours before this announcement. Siki Chan posted this showing it looks like the URLs were already added for Gemini, Gemini Ultra Vision, Gemini Pro Vision. So it's coming. All right, so next on our list is advanced coding. Our first version of Gemini can understand, explain, and generate high-quality code in the world's most popular programming languages like Python, Java, C++, and Go. And Gemini can be used as the engine for more advanced coding systems. 2 years ago, we presented AlphaCode, the first AI code generation system to reach a competitive level of performance in programming competitions. So this was AlphaCode from 8th of December, 2022. So AlphaCode had this ability to do some of the more advanced stuff in coding and solve more complex problems. And looks like they created a more advanced code generation system, AlphaCode 2. We have the AlphaCode 2 technical report. So it looks like this is the results. So the line here is human contestants. And so this is interesting. So this is showing the percentile of contestants below score. So a year ago, more or less, exactly a year ago, AlphaCode, the first version of this, was at 46. So 46% of the humans were worse than AlphaCode. For AlphaCode 2, just a year later, it's at 87%. So in 1 year, it went from average to better than most. So we'll dive deeper into this at a different time. And here they're saying that it's more reliable, scalable, and efficient. So they trained Gemini 1.0 at scale with the AI optimized infrastructure using Google's in-house designed tensor processing units, TPUs. So TPUs are their answer to NVIDIA's GPUs. So in a world where these AI chips are very scarce, very expensive, there's kind of a crunch in our supply of them, and there's a lot of world events that could threaten our supply of these chips. TPUs, they're optimized for training large and complex deep learning models, whereas a GPU is a specialized processor originally designed for manipulating computer graphics. And TPUs, the tensor version, the tensor processing unit by Google, They're specially optimized for multiplying these matrices together, meaning that they're great for training AI models and also running inference, which is having the trained model give its predictions, give its answers. And so today we're announcing the most powerful, efficient, and scalable TPU system to date, Cloud TPU V5P, designed for training cutting-edge AI models. And here's a picture of those TPUs, a row of Cloud TPUs of these brand new Cloud TPU V5P. Interestingly, Google's ability to build these data centers is kind of like the stuff of legends. So it's really looking like Google's really hitting back hard, like they're not messing around anymore. So it looks like Gemini Pro will be available in a lot of the Google products today, right now. So Gemini Pro, again, is that middle-sized LLM. So it's that middle-sized AI. So Gemini Ultra is the big one. Gemini Nano is a small one. Gemini Pro is right there in the center. So starting today, Bard will use Gemini Pro. And Gemini will be in the Pixel 8 Pro. Pixel 8 Pro, the first smartphone with AI built in, is now running Gemini Nano, plus more AI updates coming to the Pixel portfolio. Wow, Google is not messing around. I feel like they were playing dead this whole time just to like spring out like a ninja and like just announce all this insane stuff all at the same time. I did not see this coming. I gotta say wow, okay. And so the Pixel 8 Pro will be running the small Gemini model, the Gemini Nano, and it's going to be powering new features like Summarize and the Recorder app, which that can be huge. The Recorder app in Google is excellent. Has a live transcription. It's great for recording a lot of your thoughts, and it saves them there later. You can go back. But organizing these sound files is difficult. Trying to find stuff, you got to do like Control F and then see if you can find the transcript. That can be difficult. This could be huge for a lot of different things. Like when people talk about building a second brain, something like this could be invaluable for that, right? Every time you have an idea or you want to remember something or save a URL, you just speak it into your phone. This automatically summarizes everything, and later you can, using Google AI, Google Assistant, just find it at any given time. And also they're rolling out Smart Reply in Gboard, starting with the WhatsApp. And in the coming months, Gemini will be available in more of the products like Search, Ads, Chrome, and Duet AI. And like we said already, starting on December 13th, we will be able to start building with Gemini. And Gemini Ultra, the big model, is coming soon. We're currently completing extensive trust and safety checks, including red teaming by external parties, and further fine-tuning and using RLHF, so reinforcement learning from human feedback, before making it broadly available. And they'll make it available to select customers, developers, and partners before rolling it out to developers and enterprise customers early next year. And also looks like there will be a Bard Advanced that will be using Gemini Ultra starting early next year. Wow. So Google is back. It is back in a big way. Let's dive deep into some of the technical papers, but I got to give Demis Hassabis credit. Maybe this will be the era of Gemini. So I quickly went through the Gemini 1 report PDF, and it's looking really good. I think we're going to have to do a separate video where we dive deep into it because there's a lot of stuff there. Specifically, its ability to reason from images and from video seems exceptional, and I think deserves its own standalone video. Here's one interesting thing to note. So whenever they report these scores, sometimes there's some shenanigans involved where maybe the way they tested the model wasn't a fair comparison to the other score. And currently people on Twitter are noticing this, and hopefully somebody will come out with a strong background in machine learning and all of this and kind of give us the professional opinion. But to me, at first glance, everything's looking legitimate. Everything's looking good. Yes, Google DeepMind, yes, they chose to try 3 different approaches and they took the best approach to showcase their model, but the differences aren't huge. So they're using this new approach where the model produces K chain of thought samples, selects the majority vote if the model is confident above a threshold. And what that means is, as an example, let's say you're in a brand new city, you ask, let's say 5 different people how to get to a certain building, and 4 of them tell you, well, you go down this way and you turn left, and then the 5th one points you in the exact opposite direction. It's likely that the 4 that said go this way are correct, and the 5th one doesn't know what he's talking about. So here they're using kind of that same thinking to have the AI model produce multiple answers. If the model is statistically confident that it looks like one answer is showing up more often, then it will select that answer. And so it looks like they're using 32. So chain of thought at 32 means that they produced 32 chain of thought samples. So they ask the same question 32 times. And so it just chooses the most common answer, assuming it's statistically significant. So it says if the model is confident above a threshold. But the point here is these results are very similar. Like, yes, Gemini Ultra does only beat GPT-4 with this approach, But it's not like the other two are like down here and this is the outlier that they chose. They're all more or less equal, and they also show GPT-4 using that same approach. So in a nutshell, what I think is happening here, and pardon me if I'm getting this incorrect, again, we'll get more information about this, but I think what's happening here is that Gemini Ultra and GPT-4 were so neck to neck. Google and DeepMind, they wanted to have the headline read, "We won, we're better." So they figured out an approach where Gemini Ultra slightly just squeezes past GPT-4, just to have that headline, right? But everything here doesn't seem like BS to me. It seems legitimate because they're neck to neck. One slightly squeezes out a little bit more, and they compare it apples to apples with GPT-4, and it wins. And so what that means that those tests, plus Gemini's ability to understand and reason over data, over images of data, right, is giving this image and it says, what do you notice and what does that implicate? And then create a markdown table, and it does. Here it gives some soccer ball striking mechanics from watching a video. So when you look at everything right now, it's been probably an hour since this is announced. As of right now, based on everything that I'm seeing, I gotta say, it feels like Google's back. It feels like DeepMind, Demis Hassabis, they've worked hard. They were very quiet about what they were doing. And now that they've announced it, they've announced all of this stuff that is mind-blowing, that is very capable, that is real, and probably better when you're considering all the other stuff that it can do. So I think I saw that Microsoft was testing GPT-4 internally before it was available for public use in like November 2022. So now, 12, 13 months later, Gemini Ultra looks like it caught up and is ahead. Stick around for some videos from Google. I'm going to be reading through a lot of these papers. AlphaCode 2, the Gemini paper, we're going to be looking at the Pixel 8 Pro, and I think each one deserves its own video, so I'll be posting that. Please check the description. The first pinned comment, I'll have a list of all the videos that are coming out, because this is a big deal. I think this is where things really heat up. The competition is in full force, and it's going to get wild. Congratulations to Demis Hassabis, the mind behind DeepMind. Stick around. My name is Wes Ropp. Thank you for watching.
Gemini is our largest and most capable model. It means that Gemini can understand the world around us in the way that we do. So not just text, but also code, audio, image, and video.
Gemini will be available in 3 sizes. Gemini Ultra, our most capable and largest model for highly complex tasks. Gemini Pro, our best performing model for a broad range of tasks. And Gemini Nano, our most efficient model for on-device tasks.
It's been a monumental engineering task, which has been, very challenging, but also very exciting.
All right, we're going to start here. Given the play on words in these images, guess the name of the movie.
The Breakfast Club.
All right, what about this?
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
All right. What about this?
Uncut Gems.
Cool. So these are working. Here's a couple more quick tests I ran through.
Goldfinger.
Nice.
Bottle Rocket.
Okay.
The Wizard of Oz.
Nice.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Okay, this last one's a little more complicated.
Forrest Gump.
Okay, wow. I honestly didn't think it was going to get that.
As a parent, you may have to help your kid with their homework. I've certainly had to. Here's where Gemini can help. For this demo, we've created a simple interface, and with some clever prompting under the hood, we can really leverage Gemini's math, reasoning, and multimodal capabilities to learn a subject like physics. With Gemini, you can upload a photo of handwritten answers on a worksheet. Not only can Gemini solve these problems, but this is the amazing part. It can read the answers and understand what was right and what was wrong, and explain the concepts that need more clarification.
A common problem scientists face is the need to find and use data extracted from the scientific literature. This is difficult because scientists need to search among thousands of scientific papers for key information and extract them by hand. It's a very common workflow and very time-consuming. In fact, some of our scientists at Google DeepMind face this very problem. They use Gemini to help with it because Gemini has an incredible understanding of science. Taylor will explain more.
So we were looking at this study from 2022. The authors had created a data set by reviewing tens of thousands of scientific papers in genetics. They found a few hundred papers that contained the relevant information, extracted it by hand, and collected it in a table. Studies like this can take a lot of time. We needed to update this data set with what's new over the last couple of years. But that's over 200,000 new open access papers added to this domain since 2021. We couldn't do this manually, so we asked Gemini to help us out. First, we needed to filter for relevant scientific papers. We wrote a prompt, just like this one, telling Gemini exactly what to look for. With its advanced reasoning capabilities, Gemini was able to distinguish between papers that were relevant to the study and those that weren't. For the relevant papers, we wrote a similar prompt, asking Gemini to read the paper and extract the key data for us. We could even ask Gemini to add annotations. This showed us exactly where in the paper Gemini found the information. We ran this at scale. And over a lunch break, Gemini read 200,000 papers for us, filtered it down to 250, and extracted their data. So now we have a refreshed version of this data set. But because Gemini is multimodal, not only can it reason about information from text, it can also reason about figures. So let me show you something really neat. With our refreshed data set, we can now ask Gemini to update a graph from the original study. We first gave Gemini a screenshot of this figure. Then we asked it to generate the code required to plot it. And by feeding this code our new data set, we get our updated figure. You can see that this figure now includes data up until 2023.
Most of us lean on audio every day across many languages and for different purposes. Typically, when large language models interact with audio, they take the audio, they run it through a speech recognition system to convert it to text, and then they feed that text into another model that understands text. However, by doing that, many nuances are lost, like voices or pronunciation. But Gemini, with its native multimodal capabilities, is able to process the raw audio signal end-to-end.
We built Gemini from the ground up to be natively multimodal, including something quite important for both of us, programming code. Gemini is able to consistently understand, explain, and generate code that is correct and well-written in most programming languages. That includes Python, Java, C++, and Go. It substantially improves coding abilities over previous PaLM 2 models. From a benchmark around 200 programming functions in Python, it consistently solves about 75% of them in the first try, versus around 45% on PaLM 2. If you allow Gemini to check and repair its own answers, this number jumps to over 90%, which is a huge step forward. It can help you create and prototype new ideas in seconds. Let's give it a try. I really like trains. And if I wanted to create a train spotting location web app, I can simply ask and get a working prototype in less than a minute. While the code isn't perfect, it's really helpful to have a first draft.
So you have thousands of talented programmers from all over the world that come together to compete and try to solve incredibly complex problems that require not only coding, but also math and reasoning. 2 years ago, we presented AlphaCode, and it was the first AI system that could compete roughly at the level of the average human competitor. Today, I'm delighted to introduce AlphaCode 2, a new and enhanced system with massively improved performance, powered by Gemini. When we evaluate AlphaCode 2 on the same platform as the original AlphaCode, we solve almost twice as many problems. While AlphaCode broke through the top half of human competitors, on average, we estimate that AlphaCode 2 performs better than 85% of competition participants. Let's have a look at our model in action on one of the hardest problems that we faced. And I say hard because in the original contest in which the problem appeared, less than 0.2% of participants actually solved it. The problem is quite difficult, it's very abstract, so I can't get into too many details, but the basic gist of it is that we are tasked with computing aggregate statistics that account for what appears to be an impossibly large amount of random arrays. The really cool thing is that to solve it, AlphaCode 2 makes use of dynamic programming. Dynamic programming is an advanced algorithmic technique which basically simplifies a complicated problem by breaking it down into easier subproblems again and again. And what's really impressive is that not only AlphaCode 2 knows how to properly implement this strategy, but also when and where to use it. What the example shows us is that competitive programming is not just about implementation. It's also about understanding, maths, computer science, and indeed coding. And that makes it an extremely hard reasoning task. So it's not very surprising that up till now, generally available large language models have scored very poorly on this benchmark. These models are really good at following instructions, but AlphaCode needs to do more than that. It needs to show some level of understanding, some level of reasoning, designing of code solutions before it can actually get to the actual implementation to solve the problem. And it does all that on problems that it's never seen before.